Hello everyone and welcome to the Pokebattler website. My name is Famous from FLW videos, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about the top counters versus Terrakion. So in this case we're actually going to have quite a bit of shadow Pokemon included, so I'm just going to briefly show them, work through it. We've got a lot of exciting Pokemon, legendaries, shadows, non-legendaries, and then of course the mix between all of those. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first Pokemon that we have on our performance is Mewtwo. So Mewtwo going to be hitting at that fighting type, so Mewtwo's going to clearly be like the #1 option that you want to use with Confusion, and then of course the exclusive move, Psystrike. But don't worry if you don't have a Psystrike and you use Psychic as well, it's not going to be that big of a drop in the performance. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you don't have an exclusive one, you can still use it in that case. We're seeing a rating of 14 stars, so that is amazing. A little bit of an issue on the consistency, but overall not that big of a deal. And like we said before, an overall ranking of first for that level 40. Amazing job. We do get some type of resistance versus close combat. So technically, yes, it gets a 4-star, but worst case scenario, you're talking about neutral situations. So it's still looking very solid for Mewtwo. So very excited about that. And if you're interested in low manning, it's technically possible to be able to do it with 2 people, but it is going to be a little bit more on the difficult side. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The first shadow Pokemon that we have to talk about is Metagross. You want to go with Bullet Punch and Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash being a Community Day exclusive move, so going to be a little bit on the expensive side, but it is definitely a solid option if you have one. Up next is a Shadow Swampert. So cool to be able to see this Pokemon. Once again, you've got that Shadow, you've got the exclusive move, you've got a lot of investments that you will have to make, but it is going to be worth it. And then we've got Alakazam. So this will be one that isn't going to include any of the exclusive moves or anything like that. In this case, we're going to go with Confusion, and then we're going to go with Psychic. So leave counter at home. And then up next, we've got a Shadow Gallade. So cool to see this Pokemon in particular. We've seen a Shadow Gardevoir show up quite a bit, maybe even like PvP, for example. But in the raid side, we don't really hear too much about Gallade, so pretty cool to see that. And there is the Gardevoir that we've talked so much about, Confusion and Psychic. So just really hitting after the fighting type of Terrakion. We're not really seeing any other types just yet, but we will very shortly. Up next, we've got another Shadow Pokemon. This is just crazy. Then we'll get into some regular ones. We've got a Shadow Exeggutor. How many times do you see Exeggutor show up in like a top 10 list for the counter? So if you've got yourself one of these Exeggutors, I actually have a couple of them. So this is very interesting. We're going to have some good defenses going on. Only one neutral situation, so a lot of resistances and then only one neutral situation, so it's going to be a little bit glassy, but hey, all shadow Pokemon pretty much are, so that's just kind of a part of it. When we start getting back into the regular Pokemon, we've got Metagross with Bullet Punch and then Meteor Mash. As far as its moveset is concerned, you could technically go with Zen Headbutt. You could go with the Psychic option. Now, this is only if you don't have Meteor Mash. You can still do fairly well with Metagross in that way. Looking good on the damage, good on the bulk, and then unfortunately a 3-star on that consistency, but we can still give it a check, right? When we check out the rankings at level 40, we're seeing no red flags whatsoever, just a little bit slow on the time to win, but hey, you're versing shadow Pokemon, so come on. We've got a weakness to that Earthquake. You're going to definitely have to watch out for that, but other than that, you're looking pretty good as far as the other moves are concerned. So anyways, if we move on to the next Pokemon, I just thought this was so cool to see a Shadow Torterra. I have not seen Torterra show up on anything, so definitely cool. But once again, a huge investment. Just thought it was an interesting one, especially related to the defenses where you've got 2 resistances and then 1 neutral situation. Up next, another Shadow Pokemon. How crazy is this? We got a Shadow Gyarados. How cool. I'm sorry, I'm just a big fan of these Shadow Pokemon. We really just have to look out for the Rock Slide, but if it ends up being Earthquake, man, you are really going to be resisted in that case, so that could end up helping with the fact that it is going to act a little bit like a Glass Cannon. Up next, we've got Conkeldurr, so this is going to be the first fighting type Pokemon to show up on this list. I guess technically besides Gallade, we've got Counter and we've got Dynamic Punch. A little bit of a drop in performance with Focus Blast, but it's okay if you want to go with it. Looking good on the ratings, especially the consistency. And then when we take a look at the overall rankings at level 40, looking good there. A little bit on the squishy side, but overall looking pretty good. We've got some neutral situations here, and then we've got a resistance versus that Rock Slide. So Conkeldurr going to be a solid option for sure. Up next, we've got Latios. So Latios with the Zen Headbutt and then the Psychic. So hitting it from the Psychic typing. We have a 3-star on the damage, 3-star on bulk, and then a 5-star on that consistency. I wouldn't consider an alternative moveset. A little bit too much of a drop. Numbers all around not that bad for the ranking. I mean, some of them are a little low, but it's also pretty far back in the list, so that's kind of expected. We do pick up some resistance versus that fighting. So honestly, Latios could end up getting some viability here. Up next is Kyogre. So Kyogre, wow, what an amazing Pokemon. We've got Waterfall and then Surf. Looking pretty good on everything here. Nothing like just too groundbreaking, but keep in mind, it's also pretty far back. We're on like the 13th rank right now. And if you're considering Waterfall and Hydro Pump, you should be good to go with that. Nothing bad picking up on the rankings, and then just a bunch of neutral situations. So definitely a safe option if you want to go with it. And then finally, the last Pokemon that I wanted to cover is Jirachi. So with Jirachi, you want to go with Confusion and then Doom Desire. If you have, of course, powered it up to the full-on potential. Looking good on damage, extremely good on the bulk, and then a 4-star on that consistency. You've got an issue with Earthquake that you have to look out for, but you also have a resistance happening with Rock Slide, and nothing too much of a red flag. Just a little bit on the slow side would probably be kind of the only issue. But if you don't have any of these Pokemon or you're looking for some alternative options, make sure that you head over to the simulation page for Terrakion to try out some alternative picks.